This is one of the most used features on any Android phone, but almost nobody talks about how much it changed over time. This is the evolution of the Samsung Galaxy S Quick panel. At the beginning, there was no real quick settings panel. The top bar was only used for notifications, and the only shortcuts available were a few simple toggles for Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, GPS, sound, and screen rotation. For any actual setting, you had to manually go into the menus. The following year, Samsung continued the idea of quick toggles, keeping direct access inside the notification panel. The design changed, but the layout remained fairly rigid and visually limited. With Android Jelly Bean, quick settings really started to take shape. Samsung introduced a row of toggles with horizontal scrolling, and for the first time you could add, remove, or rearrange toggles. At the same time, the brightness slider was placed directly inside the notification panel. On the Galaxy S4, quick settings became much more complex, with lots of icons and the signature TouchWiz colors. Samsung introduced a dedicated button that expanded the panel into a full grid of toggles, giving you quick access to many more features. In addition, for the first time, you could jump directly into a toggle settings with a long press, without navigating through menus. The panel could also be edited directly by tapping the Edit icon. On the Galaxy S5, Samsung didn't radically change quick settings, but the interface became slightly cleaner and more organized, and the toggles were easier to follow. At the same time, the S Finder and Quick Connect buttons were introduced. With the Galaxy S6, Samsung made a major step forward and significantly simplified quick settings. The toggles became clearer, better organized, and the entire panel felt more open and modern. The pencil icon was replaced with a dedicated Edit button, making customization much more fluid. On the Galaxy S7 with Android 6, Samsung introduces a refreshed look for the quick settings panel. A new lighter color palette is used while keeping the same overall layout. The interface becomes more consistent, animations feel smoother, and the panel is more stable and faster to use. With the Galaxy S8, Samsung officially transitions from TouchWiz to Samsung Experience, and this change is clearly reflected in quick settings. The panel is not just redesigned, but also reorganized in a much more logical way, with clearer pages and faster access to features. There's improved integration with notifications and media controls, and quick settings begins to function more like a central hub, not just a list of toggles. In addition, you can now customize both the order of the buttons and the grid layout directly from the panel. On the Galaxy S9, the panel remains largely the same, but becomes more refined, with clearer organization of toggles and better integration with notifications. With the Galaxy S10, Samsung completely rethinks quick settings with the introduction of One UI. The panel is redesigned for one-handed use, with elements positioned lower and larger buttons that are much easier to reach on bigger screens. At the same time, more toggles are available for new features along with a dedicated search button. With One UI 2, Samsung introduces several important improvements. In the expanded view, the panel now shows more toggles, and to make room, the clock and date are moved to the left and reduced in size. At the bottom, two new buttons appear, Media and Devices, giving you quick access to music, video, and connected devices without opening additional menus. Samsung also fixes a strange behavior from previous versions. On the lock screen, when you open notifications, quick settings no longer expands automatically. You now see only the notifications. With One UI 3, Samsung enhances quick settings visually by introducing a blur and dim effect in the background, making notifications and toggles easier to read and better highlighted. At the same time, the panel becomes more customizable. You can more easily adjust the layout and access frequently used features like mobile hotspot or dark mode directly from the quick panel. Quick settings is also better integrated with the rest of the system, especially notifications and media controls, creating a more cohesive and responsive experience. With One UI 4, Samsung removes the blurred background and replaces it with a solid color, making icons and text easier to read. In addition, Quick Settings introduces a dynamic color system based on your wallpaper. The brightness slider is also redesigned, becoming wider and easier to use. At the same time, Samsung updates certain labels and elements in the panel. Devices becomes device control and media becomes media output. With One UI 5, Samsung adds accessibility features directly into quick settings. For the first time, you can enable options like high contrast font, color inversion, color adjustment, or color filter directly from the panel without going into settings. These allow you to quickly change how the screen looks. With One UI 6, Samsung completely redesigns quick settings and how it's organized. For the first time, the panel is structured into clearly defined sections. At the top, you get two large toggles for Wi-Fi and Bluetooth, and below them, a neatly organized grid with up to 12 toggles. Further down, the brightness slider is placed in a separate area, alongside quick options like Eye Comfort Shield and Dark Mode. There's also a dedicated section for Smart View and device control, making it much faster to access external devices. One UI 7 pushes the redesign from One UI 6 even further. Quick Settings is reorganized into multiple clear sections, with larger and easier-to-reach buttons. Wi-Fi and Bluetooth remain large tiles at the top, but the icons become simpler and bigger. The panel also becomes more customizable. You can now move entire sections, like Smart View or device control, based on your preferences. In addition, the media player is completely redesigned, with more visible controls and better integration into the Quick panel. But the biggest change is how you access it. You can now fully separate Quick Settings from notifications, choosing to open them with different swipe gestures, either from the right or left side of the screen, or keep the classic combined view. One UI 8 doesn't change the structure of Quick Settings, but refines it visually and in terms of user experience. Tiles now feature a thin outline and a more pronounced frosted glass effect, making the panel feel cleaner and more modern. Animations are also improved, with smoother transitions between notifications and the Quick panel. With One UI 8.5, Samsung takes Quick Settings customization to a completely new level through an updated Quick Star module. For the first time, you're not just editing the position of buttons, but also the design of each individual element in the panel. You can set custom backgrounds for specific components like the brightness slider, volume controls, media player, or even individual Quick Settings buttons, including using images from your gallery. There's now the ability to resize components within the panel, for example, shrinking the media player to make room for other features. Samsung also introduces improvements for landscape mode, where you can adjust the Quick panel layout separately from portrait mode. Basically, if previous versions made Quick Settings customizable, One UI 8.5 makes it fully configurable. From the very first simple toggles in TouchWiz to a fully customizable control panel in One UI 8.5, the evolution is clear. But what do you think? Which version of Quick Settings felt the best to you?